Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast. I am Marc Givler, joined by Juck today. We are going to talk about a commitment. It's a commitment episode of the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast here at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Ohio State has landed four-star defensive tackle Emanuel Ruffin out of the state of Alabama. A now Alabama to Ohio State pipeline apparently has been opened here with the last couple of years here, and Emanuel Ruffin is going to continue that big get 6'4", 295-pound defensive tackle, one of the nation's top 200 prospects, a position of need, a position of angst for the Ohio State fan base. Larry Johnson pulls off a big one here. Juck, your reaction, your thoughts on this commitment for the Buckeyes?
Very pleased, kind of confused, as it seemed like they probably could have had him the first go around and then, we'll hold off here. He commits to Colorado and, it seemed like LSU kind of backed off him too at that time. Wasn't sure what happened there, but obviously the Bucks all the way back in and they go full force. He's out of Colorado and boom, in the class just like that. And now you're looking at some big bodies in this class, Mark, which that I love. I think this is kind of the Matt Patricia effect we're seeing here, getting a little bigger inside, getting a little bigger outside with some of the guys that they're after, the defensive ends that they're after, which I'm sure we'll talk about in our skull session we got coming up this week. But I like the player. I think he's a really, obviously a big, strong kid, not a super twitched up kid, but he's constant motor. He's always getting after it. Really like his highlight film, which I'll play here as we're talking. No, he's a really good prospect and obviously somebody that they decided they wanted. So I'm all for it. Sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder here. Obviously, they're in need of kind of that one tech depth moving forward. They've got some three tech bodies or some ends that could move inside to three tech. But one tech's always an issue. It's just it's the hardest thing to find. There's not a lot of natural one techs out there that are both big and quick enough to kind of do what Ohio State asks of its defensive linemen. And so I know with Larry Johnson specifically, it's all about how quickly you can get off the snap, whether you're the one tech, the weak side, it doesn't really matter. Larry Johnson wants to see that first step, that get off. And so those are hard guys to find. There are only so many of those that exist in every cycle. But you do have to wonder here, Caden McDonald in the season he's having.
Yeah.
Is he going to be back next year? And just, how important was it to maybe add another guy like this just because of that from a numbers perspective? Obviously, you're not replacing Caden McDonald with a true freshman. You're likely thinking about maybe the portal there or something like that if Caden McDonald does go to the NFL. But you do wonder, okay, how much of that here is playing in just because of the season he's having and, his potential to maybe go to the NFL draft. Your thoughts on that? And, obviously, again, we're not saying that Ruffin comes in and just replaces Caden McDonald, but that may also be a factor here in why they've continued to look for these types of players.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's a kind of maybe a little bit of a philosophical shift on both sides of the ball, lines of scrimmage that we're going to start seeing them take maybe one or two more per cycle. And, if they naturally filter out, so be it. You got the extra space now to be able to do it should you want to. And I know they got that target mark at 90, they said is where they kind of want to be at, but you got to 105. So if you're going to take a few extra, best to do it on the lines of scrimmage. And I think what we saw, we're going to see that on the offensive side, offensive line and on the defensive line, probably moving forward. But to your point with K-Mac, man, there's a real decent shot that he's just been fantastic now. And I don't know what the draft projections are on him, but I would be stunned if they weren't, pushing towards the first round at this point because he is just so damn good. Got the measurables, a little bit short, but man, he's just a special dude. In that case, you're looking at Will Smith Jr. and I like Will. He's coming around good, but after him, Eric Mensah, Maxwell Roy, you're looking at guys that have not played much at all, a true freshman in Max Roy. And, based on obviously these guys are hard to get. I think that's why we both really, really wanted them to get Jameer Perez in this class, which they did. Get that true one tech. We don't grow them often up here. So they got Jameer Perez. Now they bring in Ruffin and add them to Cam Brickle and Damari Simeon. And I like this collection of 4 defensive tackles. I think Damari Simeon's your headliner here. I think he's a close to a can't miss, man. He's a really, really awesome player. And then, you know, you got Jameer, who serves a purpose, right? He's a body you didn't have on the roster. Now you got him. So that's really good as well. And then between Brickle, who says he wants to be a 3 tech. I don't know. He's a 6'2", 300 pounds. We'll see. But Ruffin feels like a pretty quick 1 tech type of dude to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we got a little bit of film here we can kind of show everybody who's watching on YouTube. Just kind of the type of player Ohio State's getting. But again, 6'4"-ish, 295-ish. So he's a big-bodied kid. He's not someone they're going to have to put a lot of weight on necessarily. They're going to be able to kind of just immediately get him in that strength and conditioning program and start reshaping the body in the way Mick Marotti wants it. But he is explosive for his size. We're not going to confuse him with like an Edric Houston in terms of an interior pass rusher, but he's got good explosiveness. He's extremely powerful. Plays with heavy hands, can really get off blocks, can really overpower offensive linemen with that quickness and that power. And so I think this is a really good pickup. I would probably, among their defensive tackle prospects, now that they've got committed at this point, I would probably rank him second behind Damari Simeon. So I think it's a really nice pickup in a position of need. And again, they're going to need to really push the competition this next offseason at the 1 tech. There's going to be a lot of bodies now, but there's not a lot of proven commodities there. And so I think he's someone who could, with his size, maybe push early to be a rotational piece. But again, I love the power that he plays with.
Yeah, he is absolutely. I mean, they can't mess with him. These offensive linemen can't touch the kid. He's super powerful. But I'm totally with you when we talk about ranking these guys. I do think he is number 2 here of the defensive tackle prospects. And you look at Jameer Perez, who does got a great he's a great lump of coal to work with, right? But he's not there yet. We're talking about a kid who's a little bit further along in his progression with his skill set here with Ruffin, in my opinion. And he's put up, quite a bit more production as well. So he would be my second as well. And yeah, now you got a whole lot of unproven commodities next year. Should you lose K-Mac to the portal point, it's just such a rough position, as we know, to be able to find somebody of any value. And, we saw him not really even be able to take a swing in that spring portal, which was limited. But now we've got just 1 portal. So we'll see. But I'm sure they'll be looking if that's the case. It's just a matter of, are you going to find it? And if you find it, are you going to swing and miss like you did with Onyanwa? Because there's such a small amount of time to evaluate and to talk to these guys. And it's just such a high risk thing for a huge investment. Really. Those are big money guys, man.
It's hard because you're generally dealing with 2 different types of players in the portal, especially at these types of positions. You're generally dealing with either a player at a smaller program who has maybe outplayed that level of football, and you're moving him up to the Ohio State level, which is a bit of a wild card. You don't necessarily know. We've seen it work. We've seen it not work. Vic Cutler didn't work. We've seen the move up in competition be a bit of a wild card. Or you're going after maybe a former 4 or 5 star type of kid who, for whatever reason, went somewhere else in high school, a Texas, an Alabama, a Georgia, and for whatever reason, it didn't work. They weren't happy there. It didn't work on the field there. And so you're taking a gamble there because you're going off maybe a past evaluation, and how is that going to translate to now? Were they not coached properly? Were they not given enough opportunity? You're weighing so many different things. So it is hard to find a sure thing. There are very few Caleb Downs type of players that actually end up in the portal. It's usually more of a wild card than that. And so, but I'm sure they'll be active here. But otherwise, I like what they've done here. They've got 4 defensive tackle commitments right now. They're fishing with dynamite, as I like to say. They're not leaving this up to like 1 or 2 evaluations. They're going to throw a lot of guys in there. And yeah, if some of them wash out, that's okay. That's the world we live in. But I do think when you talk about Simeon and Ruffin as like your top 2, and then you've got bigger bodied guys in Brickell and Perez with upside, I do like the mix here. And I think they've recovered nicely here after maybe a lot of angst early in the process about this position group.
Totally agree. And the strange thing is you could have had Ruffin, back then it felt like to me and you, I think, but whatever, all's well that ends well. And I do like it. I do like, taking maybe an extra number than we're used to seeing here. And now about the defensive end, which obviously we've got some prospects here that we'll talk about, and we'll come back and hit you guys with a skull session. I think probably tomorrow or Tuesday. So, but as for now, the Buckeyes land another 4-star. The class mark now has moved up to 8. We'll see if it can get a little bit more of a bump, right? It was sitting at 9 forever. That was a big point of discussion, and people were not very happy with that. Happy to see it move up to 8. And as we've seen this flurry recently and what we got on the horizon, who knows where it ends, man? Might just get up to 6.
It's funny. Historically, Ohio State has come out of the gates and just, bombarded their class, and they're 1, they're 2, they're 3, and then they end up, 3, 4, 5, and everyone, complains because they didn't finish as strong as they wanted to because they got all their guys early, and, there wasn't enough excitement around the last 2 months of recruiting. And now everyone's unhappy that, they're down at like 9 or 10, and here we go. And Dre Quinn's they got a real shot at Dre Quinn, who if I had to pick right now, I would pick Ohio State. Coming in for his official next weekend. They've got a real shot at Legend Bay, the 4-star athlete out of Texas. And so how's Buckeye Nation going to react if they make the late push and they go up to 3 or 4 in the recruiting rankings with that late push? And, is that going to be more satisfying than being 2 the entire cycle and finishing 4 because you got all your guys early? So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of reverse their trend over the years of, again, starting super hot and then getting a lot of their guys in early and then just not, having a lot of activity down the stretch. And now they've got a lot of activity down the stretch. So you guys are getting what you asked for. You wanted buzz and excitement and drama the last 2 months of the recruiting cycle. So here you are, you have it. So be happy. But yeah, we're going to do a kind of a broader look at what's left, what's going on right now here in the next day or two on the site, on the channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. But wanted to get this out on a big commitment here with Ruffin. And like I said, we'll be talking DNs here tomorrow. A little bit of a spoiler alert, but I do like where things are trending for Dre Quinn. I think a lot of people had him kind of pegged to Texas when he decommitted from Clemson. I'm not saying that it's in the bag for Ohio State, but I'm saying I feel a lot better today than I felt when he initially decommitted. I think that is trending in Ohio State's direction right now. That is certainly one that Larry Johnson and the Ohio State defensive staff and Ryan Day are working very hard. The Buford connection is helping. Edric Houston's emergence and his presence on the roster and him kind of being very happy with his decision to be a Buckeye, I think is helping here as well. So we'll get into that a little bit more this week. But again, big pickup here for Ohio State. 4-star, top 200 defensive tackle Emanuel Ruffin is a Buckeye. And that's another commitment for the Buckeyes in what's been a really big week and a half here, Juck. It's been a nice little roll. People were getting frustrated, but here we go, right?
Been a lot of fun. Listen, it's a little more stressful this way, but boy, is this exciting down the stretch, man. I mean, this constant action, you got to love it. And you're not stuck playing defense and worrying about all your guys, which is where you're usually at. So I think I kind of prefer this. Taking advantage of opportunities in turmoil around the country, seizing opportunity. I absolutely love this. So it's turned out to be a lot of fun. And I do think look, I mean, I already liked the class even before this weekend because I think they did some really good evaluations at the bottom. But, just as far as that number 9 was really irking people. We're going to see that pop up. But we appreciate you guys. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. We'll be back at you this week with a Skull Session. Talk to you then.